Good day, fellow viewers. This is the Traveler speaking. Thank you again for sparing a moment of your time to view this video. House of the Dragon is already 5 episodes in, and I do apologize all the same for not having any episodic reviews of the show. This is partially because several YouTubers have already done this. Some went as far as going in depth on each episode up to now. The other being that I had a first episode ready, but I was rather unsatisfied with how it came out. Furthermore, I fear I would be merely retreading the same ground only with little else new to add in, so I've decided to wait until the entire season is finished at least in order to decide if it gets my personal recommendation or not. In the meantime, I thought I'd take a moment to quickly speak on a fairly old article Bounding Into Comics released that caught my attention. I'll leave a link in the description for those that want to read it for themselves. Now, I'm only going to paraphrase a portion of this article as I have no interest in reading this article word for word. For those who haven't seen Game of Thrones up to season 3 or haven't read the books and wish to avoid spoilers, I suggest you stop this video as there are massive spoilers involved. If not, I shall continue. George Martin says Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon is all I hoped it would be, and says the first episode features a scene with Red Wedding level impact. After watching the entirety of the spin-off's first season, George Martin says that House of the Dragon is everything he hoped it would be, but that its first episode features a scene that delivers an emotional impact on par with the original series' most iconic event. After recounting his time dealing with and recovering from his recent San Diego Comic-Con appearance, hindering case of the flu, Martin concludes his thoughts by briefly noting that he has seen all 10 episodes now and loves what he's seen. Martin remarked, "That scene, you don't want to use the word enjoyable for a scene like that, but it's incredibly powerful, it's visceral, it'll rip your heart out and throw it on the floor," he praised. It has the kind of impact that the Red Wedding had. It's a beautifully done scene of something horrible. The scene George is referencing, I believe, is the C-section that occurred near the end of the pilot episode of House of the Dragon. I'm gonna have to disagree quite hard with Mr. Martin here. What made the Red Wedding so horrifying is that this cruel fate fell upon characters we, the readers and the audience, cared about and rooted for. In any other story, Robb Stark would be the traditional honorable hero seeking to avenge his father and rescue his sisters. In most other stories, Robb would of course face trials and tribulations, but in the end, he would triumph as any hero would. That's what most of the general audience had hoped for after the death of Ned Stark. Some against the better judgment. At the infamous Red Wedding, Robb, his mother Kalen, his wife, a change made in the show, along with several prominent Northmen, were slaughtered in a place where they thought guest rights protected them. What sealed this horrifying act was the mutilation of their corpses. In Robb's case, they chopped his head from his corpse and sewed his direwolf's head in its place before parading his corpse outside the castle in sight of his men who were being butchered for sport. What they left out in the show, however, was that some key lords of their respective northern houses were taken hostage to be used as bargaining chips. This is an event I wish the show had placed greater emphasis on, like in the books. In fact, it should have been a plot arc for season 4 onwards. I genuinely blame Benioff and Weiss for that one. In the books, the impact behind the Red Wedding was that it was felt throughout all of Westeros. The significance behind guest rights was meaningless if the host can use it as a means to slaughter his guests at the behest of his co-conspirators or settle some age-old vendetta. The violation of guest rights had all of Westeros on edge, and many even began distancing themselves from the houses involved. The ever-vindictive Walder Frey, who with the aid of Roose Bolton and the mastermind Tywin Lannister, was at the forefront of this heinous deed. The Red Wedding tarnished what was left of his house's reputation, and not only did Walder fail to understand the magnitude of his actions, seeing as he believes that his alliance with House Lannister makes his own house untouchable, he had not realized that his entire house will suffer for it, and they would suffer the worst of the three. Roose Bolton knew better, seeing as he was the one who personally murdered his own sworn king, Robb Stark, in front of Robb's mother, and unlike Walder Frey, was already making his own plans. He allowed Walder, Tywin, and their houses to have all the credit, or the blame, depending how all of Westeros sees them. He knew that he could not depend on Tywin and Walder nor their houses, not to mention that several northern houses still loyal to the Starks will learn that Roose betrayed the king and will want him dead. Tywin Lannister, who not only saw the Red Wedding as a means to an end, but also was the mastermind that made it possible, a pragmatic man who was indifferent to its significance as furthering his family dynasty was all that mattered to him. While he still lived, the Lannister house was nigh untouchable after the Red Wedding, which brought about the end of the War of the Five Kings in the public eye. However, many were starting to link his house to the Red Wedding, which would put his house's reputation in danger. Tywin and later on his daughter Cersei would seek to have all the blame placed on houses Frey and Bolton in order to make themselves look good in the public eye. While I'm paraphrasing in certain parts of the story, the point of this comparison is that the Red Wedding and its impact wasn't just another shocking death, but it upended all of Westeros and beyond, as word of it soon reached Dorne and Essos. Several films and TV shows that follow in the wake of Game of Thrones' popularity try to capture that moment even in the first season, but fail to understand that for such a moment you need to actually put in the work, and it needs three things in my opinion: build up audience empathy for said victim or victims, and what impact it will have on the rest of the world and its story. For me personally, the Red Wedding is where Game of Thrones reached its zenith, and it would be downhill from here on out. I get that George Martin is trying to build hype for House of the Dragon, but comparing the brutal death of a protagonist-like character we had for 3 seasons to a pregnant queen we only saw in 3, maybe 4 scenes before being opened up like a slab of meat. Plus, it was not very often in entertainment where we see the traditional-like hero killed off in such a brutal manner. In closing, the Red Wedding is not something House of the Dragon can replicate in my honest opinion, and certainly not in the first episode of all things, as we do not even know these characters yet, whereas we had 3 seasons and 3 books to know Robb, his mother Catelyn, his wife Jane, or Talisa in the show, his bannerman, and even his direwolf Greywind. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit that like, subscribe and notification bell. If you did not like this video, then I thank you for your time all the same. Regardless, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and until next time, safe travels, dear viewers.